Okay, so I'm starting today with my butternut squash, my celeriac and my beetroot. We're going to get these into the oven. So this beetroot, if you're using a beetroot that's been pre-cooked and vacuum packed, you can just chop that in quarters and put it into the dishes with these. This is fresh beetroot, so it hasn't been peeled. I've just cut the tips off it so that it stands in the dish. I'm going to drizzle with a little bit of oil and I'm just going to pop them like that into the oven. They will roast, and when they're cooked and you allow them to cool a little bit, you can just very easily peel the skins off them. So I'm just going to drizzle those guys with a little bit of oil. As I said, I have potatoes on back here and they are just boiling for me at the moment, and we're going to mash those potatoes. So oven goes on to about 180 degrees. And we take out the tray. Somebody else left behind. Okay, so I wanted to show you really quickly how to recognize a celeriac, what it is, because sometimes I put them into recipes and people say, what is celeriac? I've never heard of it, I've never cooked it, I don't even know what it looks like. So it looks kind of like a turnip. It's got this weird patterned top, so it doesn't look very appetizing. It's okay if you make noise. It doesn't look very appetizing, but it's got, I suppose as the name implies, it's got a kind of a celery flavour to it, so almost aniseedy, but the same texture as turnip or as parsnip. So it's absolutely wonderful with tamari soy sauce and honey. It's delicious. So, okay, it's hard, not as hard as turnip, but this is how I cut it. So what you want to do is cut it in half. So I have the other half done here, okay? You'll end up quartering it as well. So what you do is make sure your knife is sharp. If you don't have a knife sharpener at home, you should do. So I cut off at an angle first. Now the top looks really weird. You might end up getting one that's even weirder than this. So yeah, just cut everything off there at an angle. And when I'm cooking veg or chopping veg, I always have a lunchbox so that I can dump everything into it and I'm not running back and forward to the bin. So I'm going to clear that because there's lots of earth in there. Okay, once you've that done, you then go around and cut straight down on the edges, because trying to peel these guys with a traditional peeler, you'll be all day at it and you'll end up putting it into the bin because you'll be so sick and tired of it. Then you're going to cut it in half again, so you know you're quartering it. And you're going to just do the same, but more angled down towards the chopping board. Just like this one. I don't mind cutting a good chunk off there now because it's full of earth. Okay, so we're going to slice these in pieces like this. So you can pick them up, you can stack them on a plate if you want to. Now, if you're laying them out in your roasting tray, wonderful. If it's difficult for you to do that, cut them into cubes and you can actually just toss them then in the honey and soy mixture. I think this is my second time using honey and soy. I use soy and tamari a lot in my recipes actually. I just love the flavour of it. It gives you that kind of flavour of umami, that flavour of meat. As a vegetarian, there's always, I find there's sometimes something missing from dishes, and that flavour that you get is called umami, if you haven't heard of that before. So I often use it in my recipes then just to make up for that lack of flavour sometimes. It's just into the dishes there now, but we'll just chop this guy up first. So as you know, with these you need to cut out the seeds, and it's the same principle for peeling. I tend to cut them in half usually, but this was a small one, and actually what I usually do, if I'm being honest, is I just cut them in half, so they're like two halves of a boat, scoop out the seeds and then pop them in the oven, and then I scoop out the pulp later on. I think I have a blog about cooking butternut squash on my blog, fionaodonnell.ie. So if you just go on there and search butternut squash, you'll get some more recipes for that. Okay, right, so those potatoes are coming along. I'm going to grab some honey. Be generous with the honey. If your honey isn't running enough or you're running out and you think you won't have enough, pop it into the microwave just for 10 or 20 seconds, maybe 20 seconds is too much, and it'll just get runnier and you'll be able to use it over the top of whatever you need. Okay, I'm just going to leave that on top there so it drains for a second. And we have a dash. Now the other thing you have got to add here is a sprinkle of salt and some black pepper, and it really just brings out the flavour amazingly. Again, with the way the weather's going to be coming up during the summer, if you're sweating heavily on the bike and you're not using any mineral replacement, adding a little bit of pink sea salt to your food can ensure that you're replacing all those essential salts that you lose when you're out training. Okay, let me just clear this off. These are going in the oven. Oops, I forgot my little bit of olive oil on those. Okay, so that's loads of veg prepared. I mean, you're not going to eat all that in one setting. You can add onion to that, you can add garlic to it, whatever you like. But now I'm going to go on and prepare the potato cakes. Okay, those potatoes aren't quite ready yet. So what I have here is some smoked tofu. Now I'm using this, I do like making sure I have enough protein and everything, as you know, but having a smoky potato cake, it's just so delicious. So I'm going to use, I think, most of this now. I'm just going to cut it into really fine pieces. So this is a tofu, and again, tofu is, you could use smoked chicken in this recipe if you wanted. You could use a smoked cheese, but I just love the idea of giving that smoky flavour to potato cakes. And potato cakes are just so versatile. You can have them with anything. And again, if you want to, you can freeze them, put some greaseproof paper in between them. All right, now I'm going to chop this tofu finely because I don't really want big chunks of tofu in my potato cakes. So I'm just going to chop it all. Take a bigger knife. Again, add whatever you want to these guys. This is just really speaking plainly, it's a base idea. Having potato cakes, add whatever you like into it. And I want to use up my broccoli as well. So the kids are more inclined to eat potato cakes, and it keeps me happy. If I sneak in some finely chopped broccoli, then well and good. Now that's ready to go. The other thing you can do is add a little bit of spinach or kale, whatever you like, whatever's there for the taking. Okay, so there's just some bits here I won't use, but more or less everything is going in. So I'm just going to chop this really roughly. So why should we eat greens? If you are training a lot, okay, and let's face it, if you're a triathlete, if you're a runner, the likelihood is you're out most days of the week doing a bit of training. And we know that there are elements of food, there are plant phenols, it's where the term superfood came from. And these little elements or micronutrients in our food actually help to mop up the free radicals we create in our bodies when we're training hard. Now again, free radicals sounds like one of those makey-uppy words that somebody decided to write in an article that really don't exist. But in actual fact, anytime, think about when you create a fire, okay? Or when you burn food, dare I mention the war, when you burn food, what happens is you get a black layer on the outside of your food and you create smoke. It's no different in the body, okay, except there's no blackening or smoke, but we do create byproducts when we burn elements in our body, or we burn energy in our body. We do create products or byproducts called free radicals that can actually damage our cells. Now, our bodies are very good at getting rid of those, but if we are doing it repeatedly, and if we get to a point where our body can't clear them fast enough for us, then ensuring that we have a good base in nutrition. We eat lots of green leafy vegetables. We ensure we have enough vitamin C and vitamin D in our diets. These things can help us to reduce the impact of all this high intensity training on a day-to-day basis. So look, it's actually not complicated. It's quite simple when it comes down to it. Just having a balanced diet can make a world of difference. So what am I doing here? I am chopping a white onion. I'm not going to put the whole onion in. These are huge. I'm just going to really finely chop. This is going into the frying pan with the broccoli. I'm going to add in some herbs, some mixed herbs, and I'm going to add in some smoked paprika. Maybe a little sweet paprika as well. Okay, so that's our onion done. We're going to put this guy to one side. We'll do a little bit of garlic. Okay, again with your garlic, squash it first, chop off the top, and the skin should come off easy enough, okay? So you're not spending ages trying to peel the skin off your clove of garlic. So again, guys, just to reiterate, I am not a chef, but I do love food. And if there are any chefs out there that can add to these recipes or improve on them, please feel free to leave a comment. And if you make them, if you use the recipes, do let me know. I'd love to see them. Okay, so that's the onion. When this is gone, we're going to chop the mozzarella as well, and we'll be adding all that. So I'm going to pop on the frying pan here, and I'm just going to check my potatoes. Okay, potatoes are done. So I'm just going to drain these guys. Okay, let those guys sit there for a second. I'm going to get these onions on now. A little bit of olive oil. Just wait for that pan to heat up. So we're going to fry these all together. I'm going to add paprika. And smoked. Okay. I have every paprika under the sun. So what I will do is I'll just add it into my broccoli now. Save me time in a minute. Just quarter or a third of a teaspoon. And I'm going to add in some hot paprika as well. Hot paprika isn't really very, very hot. So it's not like a chili. It's not going to burn the mouth off you. So okay, so we'll pop these into the pan. And we'll let those get started. Okay, so with our tofu here, this is going to go into the mix, so we don't have to add that until we have mashed the potatoes. You can use leftover mashed potatoes from a previous dinner for this recipe. I'm going to use half of what I've mashed here. The other half is going to the kids tonight to go with whatever meat they're deciding to have. I'm going to season a little bit of salt, black pepper, and herbs of your choice. So you can add in, if you want kind of an Italian flavour, you can add in oregano or oregano, however you like to pronounce that. You can add basil, kind of gone off basil at the moment though, so or you can just add mixed herbs, or you can add no herbs. The other thing we're going to need is some breadcrumbs. So I think I've got some panko breadcrumbs here. I do. And an egg. So while we're waiting for those to cook, I'm going to get 2 bowls. One, I'll pop the egg in there. I can go into rubbish. We don't want those burning now, we want them nice and caramelized to give that really nice flavour. What else am I doing here? I'm going to whisk that. Use this fork. Sorry, that's probably very noisy on there. And I'm going to add my breadcrumbs. Okay. All right. Oops. Okay, I'm going to add in the broccoli. Now, another thing you can add here to get that umami, that flavour, that nice flavour, is Worcester sauce. Worcester sauce is actually made from anchovies. It doesn't taste fishy, but that's what it's made from. And if you don't have tamari or soy sauce, that's what you can add. I'm going to add, as always, just a glug. It adds more of a flavour than just adding salt. So you could actually have this, guys, as a side veg. You could have it as a filling in a pastry. It's actually just giving me a nice idea. Okay? So, okay, so we're going to mash our potatoes. A little bit of milk, a little bit of butter, and we're going to add some flour to this as well. You're still in the video, you know. Like the other day, just not a usual done thing in our house. Okay. Just want to keep that frying for a second. And we give this a mash. So I'm going to take about half of this. I'm going to add an egg to it. So we'll add, hello, some mozzarella. You okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm afraid to come into shot. It's a wonder I've had any of these videos done at all, really, with how busy this house is. I know we've featured dogs a few times, but between dogs, cats, children, husbands, singular. Okay, so I've chopped up that mozzarella. I've chopped up the tofu. They're going to go in now straight away. Okay, you can add half the tofu, half the mozzarella, add as much as you like, guys, totally up to you. And I'm just going to mix those through. So I'm going to crack in my egg and mix it quickly. So it makes it really, really creamy, okay? Then adding in a little bit of flour, just the mozzarella is starting to melt a little bit here now, which is nice. So adding in, so you can see, because I've added tamari, this has started to caramelize, so it smells so good. So good. So look, when it comes down to it, you could have just these potato cakes because you've got protein in there, you've got your carbohydrates, you've got your greens, you've got your fats. These are a whole meal. Last thing we're going to add is a little bit of flour. Okay. I'm sure this is from High Five or something like that, from Sports Nutrition. I'm using a scoop, I guess about 1/4 cup. If you want it to be really creamy, nice texture, dense texture in those, use 2 scoops, use closer to 1/2 cup, okay? Okay, so I'm going to just scoop out a little bit hot yet to handle. Scoop one, you see the cheese is really melting. These are pasta spoons, but they just work well for this. Now, actually, I must get a bowl to put them into, in fact. I'm going to pop them straight in the pan. Look a bowl for those. Roll them in here. And then into breadcrumbs. You don't have to use breadcrumbs if you don't have them or if you don't want to. They just give a nice crispy texture on the outside if you are frying them. Okay, I've managed a little bit of a time hop there. So this is my batch of potato cakes. Now, because we've used smoked tofu in these, the flavour would kind of remind you of a smoky potato cake, almost like a fish cake, like a smoked haddock or a smoked coli fish cake. So if you wanted to, you could add some smoked fish to these, or just plain white fish, and then you have beautiful fish cakes. So that's another option. As I said, this is your base recipe, and you can add whatever you like to them. This is then here, I've got a few more on the hob, and I'm going to get out my roast veg now. Okay, so I have also made a little bit of a lemon and parsley mayo to go on top of these. I've served it with some rocket, and now I'm just about to get the roasted veg out of the oven. So, some of those caramelized butternut squash. And a beautiful honey celeriac. So we have loads for midweek to be able to pull out of the fridge. And that is all the veg for today. This is our finished meal. I hope you enjoy it, give it a go, and as I said, if you do try it, I'd love to see some photos. You can tag me on social media at fionaodonnell.ie.